Why do we feel it's necessary to yak about bullshit in order to be comfortable?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Welcome back, everyone, to South of the Border. I'm your Reluctant Gringo back again, and we've got plenty of news from the weekend. And yes, I look a little rough. I look a little haggard. It's Mexico. It's Cinco de Mayo weekend, plus it's May the 4th, and I'm a Star Wars freak. So, hey, you know, and it was my wedding anniversary, all rolled into one weekend. And yes, today's officially Cinco de Mayo, but I mean, the party starts on like Wednesday of last week and just continues and goes on and on and on. So if you hear fireworks in the background or some sort of parade or anything like that, that's exactly what it is. It's Cinco de Mayo down here, and it's a big national holiday, and it's a lot of nationalism, a lot of pride, a lot of army out, a lot of this. And if you don't know what Cinco de Mayo is, just real quick, I know people in the United States, they celebrate Cinco de Mayo. It's a day to go out and drink and go to the beach, and that's fine, whatever, right? Cinco de Mayo is a day in which the Mexican ragtag army back in the day held off the French at this. I've been to the fort. It's quite interesting to be at that fort and stand where those Mexican soldiers stood and looked down the hill to see, you know, wonder like what it would be like to see thousands upon French soldiers just coming on up to kill them. But they held off and they won and they kept their freedom, and that's why Cinco de Mayo is such a big deal here, and especially in the part of the country where I'm at, because I'm in the part of the country where the actual battle occurred. So happy Cinco de Mayo to all my Mexican brethren and sisters out there. So, you know, I'm an adopted Mexican, I guess you could say. Been living down here for years and years and years now, and married to one, and happily for 23 years. So, yeah, it's a cool day to be out. It's, you know, we were out yesterday and it was a lot of fun. A lot of, you know, seeing everybody out there celebrating and everything going on, the music, the festivities, the food, all sorts of free stuff going on. So it's a good time. So if you want to come down to Mexico and you're thinking, is Cinco de Mayo a good time to come down? Definitely hit the Puebla area because that's where, you know, the battle happened. So there's a lot going on there. Of course, Mexico City, a lot of stuff going on. But, you know, we're here to talk about politics. Tonight we'll talk about pop culture with Late Night with the Gringo. I'm saving all the pop culture stuff for tonight. But today a lot of politics going on, a lot of things going on in the United States that affect everybody around the world. And as the thumbnail said, looks like now Hollywood is the target of Trump tariffs. And I'm kind of confused a little bit about why or how or what that is going to look like. You know, we all know what a tariff is. And in case you didn't know what a tariff is basically a tax. You can call it what it is. It's a tax. It's a VAT tax. It's an increased regulatory fee. It's whatever you want to call it. And I'm not here to argue whether it's a good idea or bad idea, but I'm here to argue, like, what exactly are we doing with taxes or tariffs on Hollywood movies? Because when you think of a tariff, you think of a product, right? When you think of a tariff, you think of just an increased cost. Now, let me bring up the article here that I was reading, and we'll share my screen with you. Again, flying solo today because the boy is still sleeping. So, anyways, Trump's planned Hollywood tariff rattles studios and streamers. And it doesn't really rattle me as so much as it confuses me. So let's just take, okay, here. All right, let's say country whatever produces these pens, right? And they cost $1, right? They cost you $1 or whatever. They cost $1. Well, now we put a tariff on it of 100%. Okay, now it costs $2, right? It costs $2 to bring that pen in, and so the price is increased. Well, this is a product, so I can kind of wrap my head. I'm a smart guy, right? I got degrees. I'm pretty intelligent. I've been around the block. Got some wisdom in my old years. So I understand how a tariff works when it comes to a physical product. How do you tariff a movie? How does that work, right? Now, I understand, too, that there are a lot of things going on with movie productions. A lot of movie productions have moved to Australia, the United Kingdom, especially because of all the tax incentives. Good for them. Canada. like people are just seeing the Thunderbolts. I think that was all shot in Canada. Okay. And the reason being is because it's cheaper to create the movies. And this has been going on for a long time. This is not something new. I mean, The X-Files, one of my favorite shows of all time, shot in Vancouver, right? Tons of, it's been going on since the 90s, where you have productions that want to save money and have great locations and a financially friendly atmosphere because it is a business, right? I don't want to fault anybody for making a smart business decision. And I'm not pro Hollywood or like, I'm not trying to sit here and be pro Hollywood. I'm just trying to understand the actual concept of tariffing movies made outside the United States. And it's also being called a national security issue because of, they could be propaganda, they could be this. I'm not sure you can I would state that a movie is a national security issue. I don't care what the message is. I've seen some pretty terrible movies with some pretty terrible messages. I wouldn't exactly call it a national security issue. But that's what we are labeling this stuff. So, just so we know, President Trump's planned 100% tariff on films produced overseas weighed on entertainment company stocks early Monday. Though details remain scant on how the administration intends to implement the policy. Shares in Netflix, Disney, Warner Brothers, Discovery, and Paramount were down 2% or more in morning trading. And again, going back to the pen, okay, it's a physical product. I understand it. Are we taxing now every time someone goes to buy a ticket to a movie that there's a tariff on that these studios need to pay an extra cost? Or ticket prices are crazy enough as they are in the United States, from what I remember. I mean, you can correct me in the comment section if you want. But the last time I checked, ticket prices for movies, just going to the movies alone, was not a cheap endeavor. Now here, I always tell people, I got it lucky because going to see a movie on its premiere day here will cost me just a few bucks, right? I just went and saw the Thunderbolts IMAX 3D with my son. So 2 tickets. We see here, we got a bucket of popcorn. We got a couple of hot dogs, a couple of sodas, and tickets and everything all included maybe cost me $15 US. And that's because it was IMAX in 3D. So they charge a couple extra bucks for that. If it was just a normal everyday theater experience, just a regular non-3D, non-IMAX, just sit down in a regular theater, that probably would have cost me $12. So call it what it is. So movies are expensive as it is. I'm not sure if these things if these costs will, get put over to the consumer. I hope they don't. But again, how does that work? Because it's not really a physical product. It's not really something that can be tangibly, I guess, taxed. But again, you can try to fill me in on how maybe you think it worked, because not even the Trump administration is being able to tell you how it works. The only thing that we got was from the Department of Treasury, I believe it was. Let's see here, and just said, "Hey, yep, we're working on it." I'm like, "Okay, you're working on it." So Trump said in a Truth Social post Sunday night that he had authorized a new tariff on films produced overseas. I don't know. Maybe we should work on making it financially viable to make films back in the United States again. It's expensive. Locations are expensive. To pay crews here is expensive. They're not really, except, you got places like Georgia, and I think Texas is starting to open up. I saw Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson trying to lobby the state Congress in Texas and Austin, Texas, to try to sort of subsidize or free up some tax incentives or to make that movie industry viable within the state of Texas, because, California, they got a lot of taxes. Now, granted, like a lot of these taxes we do to ourselves. So can you blame a studio for going, let's see here, I've got $100 million budget movie that I want to make, but if I make it in California or somewhere else in the United States, that budget's going to balloon to $175 million for whatever reasons they are, right? Or I can go to London, Pinewood Studios, get all these tax incentives, all these tax breaks, all these deferments, as long as I follow a couple of rules as far as labor unions are concerned over there and say, okay, I can make my $100 million movie for $100 million and not worry about that extra 75. Again, if you're the businessman making that decision, I'm going to London. But now it seems like you're being punished for making that smart business decision. And one has to wonder, with Hollywood being, let's face it, Trump has enemies and he doesn't forgive. He always remembers who his enemies are. Hollywood is one of his enemies. That's not a secret. That's, even Sean Penn came out with a Rolling Stone interview again a couple days ago, wondering if Trump's looking to destroy the United States of America and destroy the world as part of his sort of ego and kind of maniacal way of going about things. Again, Hollywood is not Trump's friend. And is this part of being not Trump's friend? Now, granted, he had the ambassador. He named Mel Gibson the ambassador of entertainment, a couple other people. I'm like, okay. Even Mel Gibson didn't know what that meant when asked. Even Mel Gibson didn't even know he was named until told on a live news interview. So he called it a response to tax incentives. Okay, so Trump called these tariffs a response to tax incentives that have lured a substantial number of Hollywood productions outside the U.S. So why not just give them the same tax incentives here? We give tax incentives for everybody who wants to put up a building, right? I mean, Trump's no stranger to tax incentives when it comes to like building things in New York City. I mean, again, why the tariffs? What's going on? Is it a response to China? Because China's movie industry is starting to grow and starting to see a lot of money and starting to become more and more important part of that business for Hollywood and making money. So films made by American studios are often shot in the United Kingdom and Canada, including this year's highest grossing film, a Minecraft movie. The movie industry in America is dying a very fast death, the president wrote. He called international filmmaking incentives a concerted effort by other nations and therefore a national security threat. It is, in addition to everything else, messaging and propaganda. I think that's just a bridge too far right now. Calling it a national security threat. I call it other nations going, look, one of the industries in the world that makes a ton of money, billions of dollars, let's try to get a piece of that pie. Is that a national security threat? I guess it's just how you look at it. I don't think so. For me personally, I don't see Hollywood films as a national security threat. But I guess when you label anything a national security threat, it gives you leeway to do what you want as part of the government. Again, I'm not a Trump hater and I'm not a Trump apologist. There's things that he does that I really like and things that I really don't. We're going to get into another one of those. This just happens to be one of these things that just makes me scratch my head and go, really? So Hollywood studios scrambled Sunday night to determine what the announcement would mean for their business. Executives said they were given no prior warning about the tariff plan and no information about how it might work. Well, that's kind of par for the course with Trump lately, right? He just kind of announces things. We don't know how they're going to work. He just kind of wants it to work that way. He's more focused on the result of the process. It's sort of like the hammer instead of a scalpel, And that's the thing with these tariffs. I think the first day he initiated reciprocal tariffs, he came out and said, it's like surgery. The patient, the economy, the patient is doing well after surgery. It's going to recover, though. Well, you do surgery with a scalpel and precision and accuracy. You don't do surgery with a hammer. And it seems like this is what it is. It's been a hammer. So how this is going to work. So it's unclear how such a tariff would work because movies aren't physical goods. Okay, like I said, and move through ports like items subject to tariffs. Yeah, they're not physical. They're not physical. You're not buying the movie. You're paying a fee to watch a movie. So if a movie costs $100 million to make in the United Kingdom and we're going to put 100% tariff on it, that means to get the movie in theaters in the United States, the studio needs to pay $200 million to the U.S. government. That makes no sense because then movies really will die. No one's going to make any movie. It'll be disastrous. All right. And it will cost that much anyways to make movies in the United States. So again, trying to force a business to stay in the United States through this means, this particular business, right? We can talk about all the other products and all the other stuff that gets made. And again, I'm no fan of tariffs, right? I understand how they work because I have to pay them every day here. There's tons of tariffs that Mexico puts on goods, especially from the United States. I think I just talked about it. So I'm no fan of tariffs in the first place. People talk about tariffs. I think President Trump also brings up tariffs. That's when the country was the richest. That's just that economy was just getting past the Industrial Revolution, which is nowhere near the complexity of the economy that we have today. It's like you cannot compare those two. It's great to want to think that. It's great to want to say, hey, yes, that'll be great and we'll be rich again, but it doesn't work that way. It really doesn't work that way. Tariffs work a lot differently now. Sometimes they work beneficially. We've seen tariffs work beneficially. Sometimes we work negatively. I'll give you an example of a negative tariff effect, especially living here in Mexico. I want to buy a new computer. Everybody knows I'm a fan of Apple. I used to work there. So I want to buy a new MacBook Air, right? The new MacBook Air that just came out, the base model MacBook Air. I believe if you look on the website, that'll cost you $999 without tax, before taxes in the United States. Here in this country, in Mexico, because of the tariffs, which they don't necessarily call them tariffs, they call them VAT taxes, or they call them regulatory taxes, they call them import taxes, whatever you want to call them, it's a tariff. If it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's a duck, so it's a tariff. So I go and I price these MacBook Airs, which I actually literally did, was just there yesterday. Again, kind of trying to think. And I said, well, here's the model I want, the base model, right? 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigabyte hard drive, nothing major, nothing, base model, something just for surfing the web, just doing whatever, nothing serious. CPU with 10 cores, a GPU with 10 cores, base, or 8 cores, something like that. Well, that $1,000 computer that I would buy in the United States here would cost me $1,300 simply because of a tariff. So tariffs suck, right? Tariffs do suck. They're not these great things. They do increase cost. I live it every day. So now, what's the other problem with your people are probably like, oh, just come back to the United States and buy the computer. Well, the thing is, if you if you buy it in the United States and it's brand new, still in the box, and you bring it over, you have to open it up, right? It has to look used. They'll inspect it. They'll charge you the $1,300 when you come over the border. I've seen it happen. But anyway, so I'm getting out. But getting back to these movies, how does that work for a movie? No one quite knows exactly how that's going to work for a movie. Not even the Wall Street Journal can get on it. Oh, yes, the U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick posted on X Sunday, we're on it. Great, I'm glad you're on it. I can't wait to see exactly how this is going to work. So if other countries impose reciprocal tariffs, it could devastate Hollywood studios, since most big budget event films earn the majority of their revenue overseas. So yes, other countries could be like, okay, you're going to put a tariff on that stuff? We'll put a tariff on it too. Now Hollywood's screwed. Right now, whether you're a fan of Hollywood or not, you've been pissing all over the movies lately. You don't like the direction Hollywood's going. That's fine, whatever. But the last thing you want to see is it destroyed, right? The last thing you want to see is an industry destroyed. When an industry destroys, people lose jobs. We're not just talking about the rich, the elite, the millionaires that are the executives and all that stuff. We're talking to people that do catering, the people that drive the cars, the people that build the sets, the people that design the costumes. Those aren't rich people, So, most writers don't make a ton of money, until they get a big hit, right? Then they get that big hit and they're kind of like, okay. And then, but it doesn't, not everybody who works in Hollywood, I would say 90% of them are not super rich or, able to withstand having no job for a year. Pardon me. It is super hot down here in Mexico right now, and really dry. So if you see me drinking a lot of water, it's because I'm really dehydrated, and I'm like I said, I've been through the ringer over the last few days. It's like I said, it's party weekend. So pardon me for drinking a lot of water during this cast. So Trump said he authorized the Commerce Department and the U.S. Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on movies made abroad. We're on it. Like I said, the U.S. movie industry has had a $15.3 billion trade surplus in 2023 and generated a positive balance of trade with every major foreign market, according to a report from the Motion Picture Association, the industry trade group said. So now we're tariffing something that isn't even, I can understand if there's a trade gap, a negative trade gap like we have with China. But we don't have a negative trade gap or revenue stream when it comes to movies, even though we're making movies overseas, it's still a positive net revenue gain for the United States here in this country for these studios and for these companies or for the people that work for them. So again, I'm scratching my head going, what's with the tariff? Again, is this something personal? Again, is this something that Trump is just saying, hey, I don't like you, you don't like me, so here. I wouldn't put it past him. It's happened with other presidents. I'm sure it can happen with this one. Right? It's not the first time we've had a president that did not like the entertainment industry and went after it, or government didn't like the entertainment industry and went after it. There's quite a big history there going back through the entire 20th century. So, London in particular has become a thriving hub for Hollywood productions. It's been a thriving hub. 1989's Batman, Tim Burton's Batman. Where was it made? Pinewood Studios. All right. I've known this this is not new. This is not a new thing, right? Disney's Marvel Studios is currently shooting a pair of coming. Yeah, they're shooting Doomsday and Secret Wars there right now. The total amount of money spent last year on film and television productions in the U.S. with budgets of more than $40 million fell 26%. From 2 years earlier, pardon me, just getting that water down. According to research firm Prod Pro, it rose during that period in the UK and Canada, though neither market has yet caught up to the United States. The White House didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. Of course they didn't. Trump in January appointed actors Jon Voight, Mel Gibson, and Sylvester Stallone as his special ambassadors to Hollywood. He said they would help bring back Hollywood business lost to foreign countries. These three very talented people will be my eyes and ears, and I will get done what they suggest, he said. I'm going to say that these three guys are going to come back and say, stop doing what you're doing. You're going to kill the movie industry. Just they're business people, plain and simple. I mean, and no offense, Mel Gibson, he likes to make these religious movies. Where's he going to make them? The Bronx? No, he's got to go to the Middle East. He's got to go to where it looks it, right? So, again, how's this going to work? Nobody knows. Why is this happening? No one can tell. What's the ultimate goal? To apparently bring movie production back to the United States where there is still a positive trade surplus going on or positive revenue stream going on. So this doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think it's going to make any sense to me right now until I get more information, but apparently there is none. They're on it, as Commerce Secretary Lutnick said. They're on it, and I guess we'll get the details later. But I can't wait to see how this one pans out. But this one just I don't know, this one came out of left field. No one saw it coming. It wasn't even hinted at. It's sort of like he just woke up today and decided to say, or woke up yesterday and decided to say, you know what? Let's tariff Hollywood movies. Makes no sense. Makes no sense, folks. Makes no sense to me. We could talk about, his immigration policy, how that makes sense. We could talk about his policy when it comes to rebuilding the military. That makes sense, right? There's things that he does that make sense. This one doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. All right. Here, I'm flying solo, like I said. So pardon me while I manage this going forward. All right. So now, the other big story for today. Today is May 5th. Do you owe student loans? Well, they're coming for you. They're coming for you. And as someone who's had student loans and paid them off, and someone who has kids in college and has student loans and they're getting ready to start paying up, or they are paying them off, I've got a lot of mixed emotions. Now, we've talked about this subject in the past when it first came up, when Linda McMahon, again, I'm not sure what qualifies her to be the Secretary of Education, but there she is. When she and President Trump decided to say, May 5th is a deadline. If you owe money on your student loans, we're going to put you into collection. What does that mean? It means that if they want to, they can garnish your wages. It means if they want to, and they are going to take it out of your Social Security benefits. If you are receiving Social Security benefits, imagine that. Like, you're on Social Security and it's hard enough just living off of Social Security. But now a chunk of that's going to go away because you owe that money. They will take it out of your tax refund. Oh, I'm getting a tax refund this year. Nope. No, you're not. Now, let's begin with this. Depending on what news source you watch, right? If I watch Fox News, this is a free giveaway from the Biden administration. The liberals just want to make everybody else pay for somebody else's school. They turn it into this culture issue, right? This culture war issue. All right, I get that, how that can appeal to people emotionally. You see people out there going, I didn't go to college, and why should I pay for somebody else's college? Well, you're not. Folks, you're not. Let's just move past this one. If they decided to wipe out $1 trillion or $2 trillion that it almost is in debt and say, we forgive all this debt, your taxes aren't going up. They're not. You want to know how I know this? Because when they decided to wipe out over $1.5 trillion in debt by giving away that much money in 2008 during the Great Recession, my taxes didn't go up. They didn't go up. The government's done this many, many times. They've given away these obscene amounts of money for different reasons, bailouts, things like that. It's happened. And I didn't see my taxes go up, and I was paying attention, especially during the Great Recession, right? So that's just a culture war. So if you're out there and you're getting this emotionally charged feeling, or you're feeling guilty that maybe like if this did happen, oh, I don't want somebody to, that is just the emotional appeal that one side of the media is trying to get you to feel. Okay? And again, I'm someone who did pay off student loans from my undergraduate, and no, it doesn't make me go, oh, well, shit, I paid off mine, you should pay off yours. Here's the deal, folks. All right? Oh, man, I just sounded like Joe Biden. I didn't mean to sound like that. I apologize. We've been told a lot of mixed messages when it comes to higher education, especially over the last two administrations, the first Trump and then the Biden administration. And we get told a lot of mixed messages when growing up, even from kindergarten on. You got to get good grades so you can get into a good college. And getting a degree is how you get that good life. And now we're being told, and we're told that all along the way. We're told that all along the way, the goal is to get, kids have anxiety and panic attacks at age 16, wondering, oh God, what college am I going to get into? I don't have the grade. What am I going to do? Okay. And we put all this pressure on kids to do these things, to get these grades, to get into these schools. And then we say, well, you can't afford these schools, but hey, here's this loan we could take out. Yeah, you're not old enough to buy a beer, but you're old enough to sign your name on this, that it's going to put you in debt for tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, for decades to come for the rest of your life. Okay, so I can't buy that beer and drink it in my own home, but I can sign this piece of paper for this American dream that you've been telling me that I must have, that's going to basically put me in financial enslavement for the next 20 to 30 years. Great. And I have to hope and be lucky enough that the economy is good enough that people are hiring the jobs for the degree that I want to get. Awesome. So I'm rolling the dice, I'm gambling, I'm signing away my life, and I'm putting myself under the thumb of financial hardship. Awesome. Okay, good. I just want to know that that's exactly what it is, folks. That's exactly what it is. And yes, we should have more trade school options, and we should encourage more trade school options with kids nowadays. And I think we are doing that now. But what about for the 10 million people that are going to be behind on their student loans for whatever reason? Because right now it's around 5 million. As of today, it's going to put another 5 million on that docket. It's going to be 10 million Americans who are going to go into collection. Not just 10 million Americans that owe money for student loans that are able to pay it off, right? We're not talking about the people who are current, who are lucky enough to be current. We're talking about the people who are delinquent in some way, whether it's 90 days, 280 days, whatever it might be. There's different tiers and levels of these things. So we're going to have roughly 10 million borrowers within a few months, according to the Trump administration, that are in default. 10 million Americans that are in default. And 10 million Americans that are going to have their wages garnished, or they're going to have their Social Security benefits garnished, or they're going to have their disability. God forbid the disability, because the rule is what they were talking about. They're going to go after any state or federal income first. Disability counts as state and federal income. Imagine that you're on disability, right? You're going along, everything was going great. Now you're on disability because of what? Whatever reason. Now, okay, F you, we want our money. Okay, I get it, right? I get that part. Well, they want their money. But it just doesn't make sense anymore. This is, we talk about national security issues. We talk about the debt crisis. We talk about all that stuff. $2 trillion in student loan debt seems like a pretty interesting thing to be able to say, you know what? I want to improve the economy. How do I do that? Well, I want people to spend more money. Well, how do I do that? I don't know, eliminate debt. I mean, it's simple. Like, if you and I are sitting at the kitchen table and we're looking at our finances and we're saying, hey, I want to be more financial. I want to be able to spend more money on things I want, be able to purchase more, buy better food, whatever it is, buy a car, I don't know, paint my wall, whatever, right? But I got all this debt. So you got to get rid of the debt first, and then you can be financially viable. Well, I mean, we're going to look at some, by the way, also the argument that, doctors and lawyers and rich people, that's not who these, I'm not paying for these doctors who make money, they can pay their own. That's not who we're talking about here. The doctors aren't the people in default. The doctors aren't the people who are delinquent. The lawyers, all that. That's not what we're talking about. That's a small percentage of people who take out student loans, and most likely they're able to pay them back later on. So, the federal government has extraordinary collection powers on its student loans and can seize borrowers' tax refunds, their paychecks, Social Security retirement, and disability benefits. There it is. Actually, I just read it. I said it. Now I read it. There it is. That's scary. That's scary because the reality in America is this: you're one crisis away from being bankrupt. Most families are. You're one medical crisis away from being bankrupt. You're one car repair being away from not being able to buy food. Most people live paycheck to paycheck. Most 401ks were borrowed against over the last 5 years, especially during the pandemic, because people couldn't make ends meet. And that's what the economy was doing okay. Stock market was up. It was okay. It ain't okay. We're basically, companies are acting. We're going to get to another article that relates to this, because companies are already acting as if it's a recession. We've already had 1 quarter of negative growth. Who thinks that this quarter is not going to be negative growth? Of course it is. We're going to have 2 quarters of straight negative growth. What is that the definition of? It's a definition of a recession, people. We're in a recession. People can't find jobs. There was an article my son sent me, and I wish I still had it. And it was last year or the year before, the entire graduating class of Harvard's business school for postgraduates were unable to find work in the field in which they were getting their degrees in. We're not talking, these are baristas, they always say, the barista with the DEI degree. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who went to one of the most prestigious business schools in the world and got degrees in economics or business management or whatever that might be. And they cannot find jobs with their degrees. Something is very wrong, all right? And the reason is because companies are acting like it's a recession. So now we're going to say to these students, hey, we want our money back. Yeah, you can't find a job. I get it. Too bad. So sad. Whatever. You're in a recession. Good luck starting life out that way. Oh, you wanted to save to probably buy a house one day? Ain't going to happen. Oh, you wanted to save up to maybe, move to a different area of the country that, maybe is more prosperous? Ain't going to happen. Oh, you wanted to save up early for retirement. So when you're, 65 or 55 or whatever time you want to retire, you can do so comfortably knowing that your golden years will be covered. Ain't going to happen. But that's where we're at. And that's what these student loans, and that's what the timing of these student loans and the psychology of these student loans are going to do to this generation, the generation that is, I'm Gen X, right? I guess is what this, I get confused all the time. There's Gen Y, There's millennials, there's Gen Z, there's, I don't know, Zoomers. I don't know what the frick a Zoomer is, but okay. Those people, they're screwed. 6 ways to Sunday, okay? Screwed 6 ways to Sunday. People out there with good degrees, they can't get the jobs they want, right? So let's get into this article a little bit. The U.S. Department of Education is set to restart collection efforts on defaulted student loans on Monday, putting millions of borrowers at risk of wage garnishment and other consequences. Now, did Biden have the power to do what he said he was going to do? No. Congress sure does. How do I know this? I watched it in 2008. I'm going to keep going back to the Great Recession, right? And then people are going to say, well, these people, they signed their names. They made their bed. They're lying in it. Well, guess what? The banks that failed did a lot of illegal shit before 2008 happened to cause 2008 to happen. Did anyone go to jail? No. Did these banks have to be held accountable? No. Yeah, sure, they sat in front of Congress and got grilled, but they don't give a shit. 10 minutes after those hearings ended, they're on their private jets, having their meals, all that, going back. I mean, TARP alone, the TARP bill alone was $1 trillion, right? It wasn't exactly $1 trillion because psychologically, the Secretary of the Treasurer and Nancy Pelosi got together and says, we can't do $1 trillion. We'll do 900 million because $1 trillion just sounds bad. But they still gave all that money away to these banks. Why didn't they have to be held accountable? Why couldn't they say, hey, you signed your name on a dollar and you did all this crap that you shouldn't have? They were handing out, okay, give you an idea of what went wrong in 2008. They were doing things like ninja loans, ninja mortgages. This was a thing. What's a ninja loan? No income, no job. Oh, that's fine. Go ahead and sign your name on the line. We'll give you a mortgage. And they could do this to people who couldn't speak English, who just came over to the country. They wanted the American dream. That's all they knew. Yeah, sign your name. All those people that, and then the regular people that signed their name thinking they were getting a great mortgage, getting their bullshit lied to, right? And then they had their balloon payment came up and they couldn't afford it. And like, okay, I didn't know this was going to happen this way. They lost their houses. People still lost their houses. It's not like we gave $1 trillion away to the banks and the banks are like, yeah, everybody keep your house. No, everybody got foreclosed on. People living in the streets. It was terrible. It's horrible. It was devastating. But we saved the banks. And what did they do with that $1 trillion? Did they give it back to the people that lost their money? Did they hire back all the people that lost their jobs? Lost their 401ks? When these banks went under, and these other real estate companies went under and things like that, people lost their pensions that they had worked for years. People have been there 20, 30 years. They lost their pensions. They're like, sorry, here's the door, here's the box, put your shit in it and get out. No pension, your 401k, gone, because the market crashed to shit. But we still gave $1 trillion away to these banks. It's the greatest wealth transfer theft, I call it, in history, and it happened live on TV. And there was nothing no one could do about it because the government was all in on it. Right? Started with Bush, went to Obama, both of them, they didn't do nothing about it. Either or. They still continue to do it. But for some reason, student loans, that's the hot button issue, right? People, regular, ordinary, everybody, doesn't benefit the banks, right? That doesn't benefit the banks. Doesn't benefit the colleges because it's all government. It's all government debt. Right? Government just forgive their debt. Right? Government loves debt. Government loves it when they have other people in debt, right? They have other countries in debt. Right? We loan money to other countries. They're in debt. We're in debt to other countries. It's just the whole cycle of debt. They love it. But again, no problem giving away $1.5 trillion to banks who then went and used it. Like a lot of these people gave their executive bonuses with this money. Brought them all on lavish vacations with this money. They even called him in front of Congress, and said, hey, you told us this wasn't going to happen. Yeah, it happened. Oh, yeah, we got bonuses. Oh, yeah, $1 million bonuses. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had company retreats. We brought all our executives down to, Paradise Island. We all spent the week there just chilling on the beach, drinking, getting massages, hanging out by the pool. Meanwhile, the people that were supposed to be getting helped, the regular, ordinary Americans, they're living in their car at a gas station. But apparently, not with student loans. Can't do that with student loans. Not going to hurt you, people. Believe me, it wouldn't hurt you. Your taxes aren't going to go up. You ain't going to lose a dime. Defense Department, they lost $1 trillion. They can't figure out where it went. Yeah, they did their audit. They did their audit for their money. $1 trillion. They can't figure out where it went. That's half the student loan. They cannot account for $1 trillion spent. But apparently, the poor bastard that's trying to get a degree to make his life better, who's been told this is the American dream, these are the steps you have to follow. Yes, you're not even 18 yet, but sign on a dotted line to put yourself in debt for the rest of your life. They're the enemy. They're the bad guy. Listen, I'm a conservative and I'm a Republican, but that's bullshit. That stinks. That is bullshit. But let's take a look at the demographics. Let's also take a look at the demographics of what a student loan is, of who is actually borrowing and where and when. So you get a reality check, right? Because it's not the doctors and the lawyers you're bailing out, right? Even though, again, government's okay with bailing out big banks with people who are that CEOs are making $40 million paychecks each year. That's okay. But this is where we're going to stand our ground as a U.S. government. So let's get into this. Let me pull up these stats. Yeah, student loan borrowers in default begin facing debt collections. Yep, there's Linda McMahon. There she is. Somebody asked her about her husband and the SEC violations, for the businesses that he's created. But yet she's in charge of education. She was the CEO of companies that are now under investigation for violation of SEC violations. Never mind human trafficking violations. But yep, there she is. She's a hero. The American taxpayers will no longer be forced to serve as collateral for irresponsible student loan policies. Really? We served as collateral for when big banks stole trillions of dollars from us. Again, bullshit, folks. This is bullshit. All this is bullshit. It's made to just divide people and keep people fighting with each other instead of going, hey, government, what the hell are you doing? And that's exactly what happens, right? When there's an issue like this, they like to say, okay, how do we pit one side against the other? So they're fighting with each other and paying attention to each other instead of paying attention to the real issue. Okay. Let's talk about the real issue. This is the Education Data Initiative. This is a research firm. They do all sorts of data collection on this subject, along with other educational subjects. The outstanding federal student loan balance as of right now is $1.693 trillion. But no, that's not a national security issue. Hollywood making movies in the United Kingdom, national security issue. Really? This isn't? I would say this is more of a priority right now. All right? Federal student loan debt represents 92.2% of all student loan debt. Wow. You could wipe out 92% of all student loan with an act of Congress. The average federal student loan debt balance is $38,375, while the total average balance, including private loans, may be as high as $41,000. 4.86% of federal student loan dollars were in default as of 2024 fourth financial quarter. The U.S. government itself is in default. We barely pay the interest on our own debt every year. We have to keep raising the debt ceiling just so we can pay, right? But screw the students. Screw the students. All right. Student loan debt statistics. All right. And it goes, by the way, it's disproportionate. We're going to see this by race categories, but it's disproportionate towards women, slightly. It's disproportionate towards middle class children. So it's not the rich that are suffering. It's women, middle class, both men and women. And we're going to get into race in a second because it's really disappointing. You could actually call this a racial issue if you wanted to. Liberals love playing the race card. Play it here because it actually works here. It actually makes sense here when you see the stats. All right. Total student loan debt increased 47, almost 48 billion in 2024. Why? Interest. Federal student loan debt increased 36.4 billion, representing 75.9% of the year-over-year increase in all student loans, federal and private. Right? So it's incredible how much money. Again, you're 17. This is the American dream. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what you've been working your whole life for. This is all the pressure. Get your good grades, all this. Go to a good school. Get in the clubs. Do your sports. All that. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, sorry, you didn't get a scholarship? Well, here, sign on a dotted line. You too can have the American dream. And again, as I said the other day, and I credit this to George Carlin, one of my favorite, if not my favorite stand-up comedian, the American dream is just that, folks, because you got to be asleep to believe it. Especially when you're in debt for the first 20, 30 years of your life. And you can't get the job you want and you can't pay off your regular bills and your one medical bill or your one car payment or your one whatever crisis away or financial hardship away from being bankrupt and being behind the eight ball because you're already living paycheck to paycheck. But again, the big banks, we had to rush. We did it in record time, didn't even read the bill. 2008, 3 days. Within 3 days, they had a bill ready. $1 trillion for the banks. What about the people who are losing their houses? Screw them. We're going to save the banks. No, we can't let the banks fail. We'll let the ordinary everyday, because those, there'll be more people. There'll be more people. If they die on the street, they're poor, they have a shitty life, whatever. Don't matter. There'll be more of those. We'll have more. Can't let the banks die. Shit, they pay for our elections. That wasn't tongue-in-cheek either, that one. All right, borrower statistics. 20% of all American adults with undergraduate degrees have outstanding student debt. 24% with postgraduate degree holders report outstanding student loans. 20% of U.S. adults report having paid off their student loan debt. Only the 5-year annual average student loan debt growth rate is 1.66%. 1.66% of $1.7 trillion is a shitload of money, folks. So 1.66% might be like, oh, well, see, it doesn't grow that much. It's not really? If I offered you to hand you a check for 1.66% of $1.7 trillion, you'd be happier than a pig in a pie. All right. So let's get to our race statistics. This will piss you off. At least it'll piss off some of you. Black and African American college graduates owe an average of $25,000 more in student loan debt than white college graduates. 4 years after graduation, black students owe an average of 188% more than white students borrowed. Black and African American students borrowers are the most likely to struggle financially due to student loan debt, making monthly payments of just $258 because they're struggling, because most people are struggling right now. Asian college graduates are the fastest to repay their loan debt and the most likely to earn a higher salary to help pay for student loan debt. Good for them. Bachelor's degree, associate's degree. Bachelor's in blue, associate's in red. White and Caucasian. Okay. Federal student loans for associate's and bachelor's degree holders, all right? 59% of white and Caucasian students have to have student loans of some kind. 81% Black and African American students have to have student loans. 60% Hispanic and Latino. Asians, only 39%. American Indian and Alaskan Natives, 65% of them need to take out student loans. And then 63% multiracial. There's some skewed numbers here, folks. There's some skewed numbers. So we talk about equity, equality, all that stuff. And I know I don't like to talk about DEI because I think the way DEI is done is bullshit. But the way you look at this, go, okay, there's some equality issues going on here. Okay? Let's not lie to each other. I'm not going to piss on your leg and say it's raining, right? There's some equality issues here. Even, as callous as I can be sometimes, even I can look at that and go, something ain't right. Black and African American bachelor's degree holders have an average of $52,726 in student loan debt. Holy shit. Imagine that. 22, 21 years old, whatever it is, you just got out of college. I got my bachelor's degree. Yay. Here's your debt. Average of $52,000, $53,000. Do you think you'd want to go to graduate school right away after that? Be like, you can go to graduate school now and take on more loans and more debt. Hopefully you get the job you want. Otherwise, you can, learn the phrase, do you want fries with that, and then never be able to pay off your student loans. Have your credit score ruined? Have your wages garnished? Wonder what the hell you did that for in the first place, what it was good for. I mean, you get told your whole life. Again, American dream. Sign on a dotted line. Isn't that a scam? I mean, the Trump administration called college a scam. Shouldn't they be looking at this going, wow, look at all these people who got scammed into this debt. We should help them out. No. They're saying screw them. But wait a minute, you told me it was a scam. Shouldn't you help me out if it's a scam? If it was a trick, a joke, a ruse? You're telling me college education sucks now? You're telling me you're attacking colleges themselves. You're taking away their funding. Even your administration is looking at colleges going, these places suck. But yet you still have a government that's going, yeah, we still want to send you to them as long as you owe us money. As long as you're indebted to us for the rest of your life. Because let's face it, folks, the one way to keep you down, keep you subservient, is to put you in financial hardship. I mean, it's tried and tested throughout the years, throughout the centuries. And that's what this is. That's what this is. Let's continue. 45% of the gap between black students and white students is from student loans for graduate school. Holy crap. 40% of black graduates have student loan debt from graduate school, while only 22% of white college graduates have graduate school debt. Why is that? Okay. White people do make more money than black people as a whole in the United States of America. We can say that. The white kids get preference for student loans when it comes to graduate school? Or they just have better networking, better connections, better whatever? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. But there's got to be a reason for that statistical gap. All right? I've studied statistics for a long, long time. There's usually a reason. And I'm sure if you dig into it, there's going to be a reason somewhere, somehow, some way. Over 50% of black student borrowers report their net worth is less than they owe in student loan debt. Imagine that. You graduated from college. Yeah, a few years later, you got your job. Maybe you live in an apartment, you got a roommate, maybe 2 roommates, 3 roommates, it happens. You're like, okay, what's your net worth? My net worth is this. Okay, you're underwater. You're literally underwater. What does that mean? You owe more than you're worth. It's like owning a house that's worth less than the mortgage that you owe on it. You have a $300,000 mortgage on a house that's only worth $200,000. Why? Shit goes sideways sometimes. And, again, the scam. Monthly student loan payments for associate's degree by race. Black people have to pay $258 on average for their associate's degree, for their student loans each month after they graduate. 2 or more races, $215, white, $215, Asian, $197, Hispanic, $188. Good for the Hispanics, all right. Rock on. But there's obviously a racial issue here. What it is, I don't know. I mean, I can see the statistics. I just know that there's something really unfair going on here. It's obviously worth a look. Black student borrowers owe the highest monthly payments. Black student borrowers with an associate's degree are the most likely to have monthly payments of $258. Black student borrowers with a bachelor's degree are the most likely to have monthly payments of $386. Let me ask you this. When you started up right out of college, whether you're an old man like me with a job and you've well-founded, well-situated life, or you're starting out right now, do you think you'd want to pay? I mean, could you survive paying almost $400 a month out of your monthly? You say, okay, well, you need a car, okay, car payment. You need insurance, okay, insurance payment. You got rent, okay, all right. Well, now you get this $400. Well, do I get to eat this month? No. No eating for you. You can take on a second job, third job, fourth job. And yeah, sometimes you can take on a second job because there have been times in my life early on with kids, I took on a second job. It sucked. I had working a full-time job and working almost another 3/4 full-time job. It sucked. You do what you have to do to make ends meet. But it shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't be this hard. Shouldn't be this hard. So the idea that student loans are going to go into collection default, first of all, bad timing because, by the way, we're not hiring anymore. Again, let me bring up this article, and I saved this article just so we can tie it in. From the Wall Street Journal, corporate America is leaving more jobs unfilled. Stopped hiring. Stopped hiring. And we're not, for real jobs, right? Not the, hey, do you want fries with that? Not that, you want to work the fry counter, you make good money, you happy? Good, glad. I'm just saying most people who go to college and get a degree don't do that. Don't want to do that for a living. They want to get a college degree for a different reason. Most employers aren't laying off workers, but many will pause hiring while the trade war plays out. So we've got a trade war. We've got a stock market that doesn't know what the fuck to do with itself. We've got companies out there that don't know what to do, whether it's hiring, not hire, freeze hire. They have no clue. Tariffs are getting slapped on in the middle of the night for no reason, no reason that we can friggin' discern. It's all over the place. Tariffs are on, tariffs are off. We have the most bipolar, manic, depressive economy I've ever seen in my life. And I was born in the Carter years. The economy sucked then. I went through the Reagan years. I went through the 90s boom. I went through the recession with the first George Bush. I went through the internet bubble burst and the slight tech bubble burst and that sort of slight recession with Clinton. I went through the Great Recession in 2008 where you didn't know what the hell was going to go. They were saying ATMs are going to stop spitting out money in a couple of days. Literally, that was the thing. They were like, ATMs are going to stop working all around the world. There's not going to be any more money. I've been through all that. And this economy is it's getting pinballed around, ping-ponged up and down. It has no idea what to do. So most major U.S. employers are starting to take a new approach to jobs. Hire less or not at all. Oh, I know you signed on the dotted line for all those student loans for the degree that we told you needed to get the good job that you needed to live the American dream. But again, the American dream isn't really what we really advertised it as. Because no matter what, you got your degree. You got nowhere to go with it. You got no job. Good luck. Can we have our money back now? Somehow this is mafia-like. It literally is loan shark-like. It really almost has that type of feel to it. It's almost loan shark-like. We're going to F up the economy and then we're going to tell you to give our money back. And again, if any of this makes sense to anybody else out there, please let me know in the comment section because it doesn't make sense to me. And could we pause student loans for another couple of years till we get out of this trade war, till we figure out what's going on with the real economy, if we figure out where we're at, if we can figure out if we're actually in a recession or not, which we are in a recession. Maybe we should just, pause it. It wasn't hurting anybody. By the way, no one was paying their student loans for years during the pandemic. Did anybody's taxes go up? No. Did you get a special letter in the mail saying, hey, we know you didn't go to college. We know you already paid off your student loans, but we need a little handout here from you extra to help out these people over here that are hurting. Anybody get that letter? Anybody get that tax? I didn't. Am I the only one? Didn't happen to me. So, T. Rowe Price is slowing hiring. Oh, T. Rowe Price, great. Business. JetBlue is reducing non-essential hiring. I don't know what non-essential hiring means. I figured if you have a job that needs to be filled, it's essential. If you don't have an essential job, then you shouldn't have the job in the first place. Okay, so that one's a little weird to me, but JetBlue, again, non-essential hiring. Polaris, which makes off-road vehicles, has paused some hiring for now. And more than a dozen universities from Harvard to Duke have enacted hiring freezes. Universities employ a lot of people. It's not just professors, researchers, staffing, all that. Human resources, counseling, psychologists, medical staff, sports staff. You know, you love Notre Dame football? Guess what? Someone needs to work there to sell you a hot dog. No, we're not hiring those people either. All the organizations and many more say bringing in fewer employees will help them cut costs and weather a turbulent moment. Quote, we've instituted our recessionary playbook. Robert Mack, chief financial officer of Polaris, told investors last week, citing a downturn in its industry. Are we in a recession? All right, we had 1 quarter of negative growth. We have every company out there in the world that looks like they're acting like it's a recession. Do we wait for a second quarter of negative growth so it's official? I guess we can. But folks, it's a recession. A stop-start trade war, that's an interesting way to put it. Sinking customer confidence and dramatic cuts to federal funding and education. By the way, the biggest employer in the United States is the federal government. So we started slashing all that. Doge, granted, Doge found a lot of good stuff that should be slashed. But when you start cutting employment and then going, hey, too bad, so sad. Okay, I get it. Here's the thing. Everybody says Trump's this great businessman, and you just might be. But when you start really thinking about it, and I was in business for 20 years. The people in business and the people who run businesses, people below them, and the lower you get, the more this becomes true. You're not people. You're not individuals. You're not human beings. You're a resource. You're nameless, faceless. You're a number. You're a product. You're a consumable. So we have a businessman running the federal government. Great, fine. Guess what? He doesn't look at employment the same way as you or I do. We look at it as necessary. He looks at it as something that can be toggled up and down as far as how to make things more profitable. Okay, great, fine. If that's the way we're going to run government, then you better make some other exception somewhere down the road with other things because people are going to start losing jobs, which they have. There's always a give and take. There's always a give and take in business. There always going to be. All right. You can cut one thing, but you got to make a stance somewhere else. All right. You can say, I don't want to spend this money over here, and I've got to tighten up over here, but it means I got to start taking care of other things. You just have to. So, during earnings call over the past 2 weeks, companies big and small shied away from mentioning layoffs, but repeatedly said they would be more cautious before bringing in new workers. Quote, we anticipate a slower pace of hiring for the rest of the year, said Sarah Glickman, Chief Financial Officer at advertising technology company Criteo. Others, including Union Pacific Railroad, railroads, that's not essential in the United States. No problem. We don't need the railroads. Insurance broker Marsh McLennan and financial services firm Invesco warned they could reduce hiring if necessary or keep roles unfilled if the economy worsens. The downside scenario is, yes, we have levers to pull, said John Doyle. See, that's what I mean, levers to pull. I used to have to do it myself. Sales are down. Pull the payroll lever. What does that mean? The people all below me get reduced hours. But they have bills to pay. Too bad, so sad. They have families to feed. Too bad, so sad. I was giving you 40 hours a week for 6 months straight, and I guess what I can't do? I got to give you 20 hours a week. Go get another job. Go get another part-time job. Do what you can. But that's how business acts. That's how business works. But yet now we're going to tell these people who are coming out of college that can't find a job, all right, that have a hard time getting into the economy, start paying me money. How are they going to live? I really do feel bad for the youngest generation right now coming out of college. I really do. I really, really. Normally, I don't. Normally, I'm the callous, unempathetic bastard that I am. But when I see stuff like this, I'm going, this is going to suck, and it's going to have long-term effects on a lot of things. The jobs report on Friday showed that employers added 177,000 jobs in April, a surprisingly strong number, considering the tariff uncertainty that has roiled markets. Jobs in healthcare and finance helped shore up hiring. Great. But guess what? A lot of those 177,000 jobs are part-time jobs. That's the thing. Whenever you hear that, we've added this many jobs, you dig into the numbers, it's like, okay, it's people working 2 part-time jobs to equal 1 full-time job. And again, that's not sustainable as a society, as a life. That's just, again, it just doesn't work that way. President Trump recently extended a government-wide federal hiring freeze through mid-July. Many federal workers who hope to get hired by state and local governments have been disappointed. I saw that myself. With a lot of people coming out of college that I knew that had degrees in politics, international relations, things like that, want to go work for the State Department, work in embassies, work in things like that. And they were like, yeah, we're ready to go. This is what we work towards. Nope, sorry. Let me ask you this. Where do most people who get degrees and things like that go to work? Governments. Well, if the government says we're not hiring, okay, well, those are real degrees, right? Those aren't bullshit degrees. Where do they go? They go nowhere. They go to McDonald's. Nothing against McDonald's. So that's my rant on student loans. Again, I think it's bad timing. I think with the economy, there's a lot of bad things happening. There's a lot of bad signs. It's just when an economy doesn't know stability or has stability, bad things happen. All right, we're flying by the seat of our pants when it comes to the economy. But that's what it is. All right. Now, another. Oh, snap. It broke. Another story that is concerning, both because I have ancestry in the area, and I think it's just about time we just stop this whole bullshit. Netanyahu promises to move Gaza's population after Israel approves the plan to, quote, conquer the enclave. Right now, what's going on in Gaza? Well, Hamas, the terrorist organization that sort of runs the place, the bad guys, are now executing regular Palestinian citizens who are looting anything they can find, because just look at that picture. Gaza is a freaking war zone. Gaza is in ruins, rubbles. Can't get food, can't get water. Whatever aid's getting in there, Hamas is stealing and taking for themselves instead of going to the people. So regular Palestinians are resorting to looting, to trying to find anything they can. And when they get caught looting, what does Hamas do? Execute them. So now Hamas, a terrorist organization that was fighting on behalf of the Palestinian people and Allah and all that stuff, are now executing their own people because their own people are starving to death and resorting to trying to steal whatever morsels they can find. Great. It's good. That's excellent, right? I'm sure there's some people out there that are happy and proud of that and thinking, yep, that's exactly what we wanted, because Israel's ready to move in and conquer. Conquer is a word that Israel used, that members of the Israeli cabinet used. Go in and conquer and then relocate their people. I mean, what is this? Early 20th century? Relocate their people. Yeah, we tried that with the Native Americans. It didn't go well for the Native Americans. Relocate them where? They're Palestinians. That's where they live. They're not your enemy. Hamas is your enemy. Where are you going to relocate them? I mean, imagine that. I really want you to imagine that. Like, you live somewhere and another government comes in and says, hey, you know what? Time for you to go. Where are we going? We're going to relocate you. Where? We'll tell you. You have no choice. You're going to go to Egypt? I don't know anybody in Egypt. You're going to go to Jordan? I don't. What am I going to do in Jordan? I don't have a job in Jordan. What are you going to do? But here we go. We're going to conquer. We're now going to conquer Gaza. Or Israel is going to conquer Gaza. And of course, here comes Trump with his plan to build a beautiful, beautiful place. Do you think they're going to conquer Gaza, hand it over to the United States, redo it as this beautiful paradise of living, and then hand it back over to the Palestinians that they scattered around the Middle East? No. Don't fool yourself, folks. I'm no fan of Hamas, believe me, and I'm really no fan of my own people a lot of the times for what they do and how they act. But this is wrong. The idea that another country is going to conquer, right? With Russia trying to conquer Ukraine, that's wrong. This is just as wrong. And this is going to cause more, let me tell you, this is going to cause a real outbreak of war. This will get the Iranians really riled up. Probably even the Saudis. I mean, right now we count on the Saudis and the Iranians to not like each other or work together. Imagine those two working together. The money of the Saudis, the fundamentalism of Iran, focused on Israel. You want to be in a war, folks? You let this happen. Go ahead, let this happen. You want American military back in the Middle East in a war that will last forever with no end in sight, no real goal, no real winning? You let this happen. Okay? And a lot of people in the United States, they can't understand this. It's a religious war, folks. It's not just a war for land. It's a religious war. It's a theological war. Those wars, they don't end. Those wars cannot be compromised. Those wars cannot be mediated. It's either my God or your God. It's my way of life or your way of life. It's like the Cold War, right? We weren't going to let the Soviets impose their will and their way of life on the United States or Western society, where we thought, where we believe in freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, all that. We weren't going to let the Soviets come in and say, no, we're going to make you stick to our values and our way of life and our culture. No, we didn't. We did everything we could. Everything we could. Sacrificed so much blood and treasure to win the Cold War. Same thing here. I'm not going to let it happen. Arab countries aren't going to sit back and go, yeah, sure, no problem. It's a religious war. It's a theological war. It's a cultural war. Cultural war in the sense that it's a real war, not like we call a culture war in the United States where we argue whether transgender men can be in women's sports, right? We call that a culture war. You're pretty soft if that's a culture war. This is a culture war. This is a fight for the survival of the way of the life of which you live. Your ancestors live. Your future generations will live. Why hasn't this war been solved or this has been going on for decades? You can't solve it. There's no solving it. There are a lot of people come in and say, oh, we can solve it. We'll have a two-state solution, all this bullshit. Okay, who's in charge of the Rock of the Dome of the Rock? Because the Dome of the Rock is also a religious place for Jewish and Catholics. But who's in charge? Who owns it? Is it officially the Dome of the Rock? Is it officially? Really? Let's see how much the Jewish people like that, or the Christians. You have competing theologies. And whenever you have competing theologies, there's got to be an ultimate winner and an ultimate loser. The ultimate loser is usually one that gets wiped away. Well, step one is conquering them. So where Israel's going to try to conquer Palestine, conquer Gaza. And the other Arab states are not going to sit back and watch this happen. They're not. They're going to do what they do best: insurgency, fund, stir up, use tactics that would be considered barbaric, even by barbaric standards. And that's what's going to happen. So this is a bad, bad thing. So let me get to this article. The vote on Sunday came hours after the military. Okay, let me back that up. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the population of Gaza will be moved after his security cabinet approved an expanded military operation in the enclave that a minister described as a plan to, quote, conquer the territory. The people in Palestine that are not Hamas, they're not bad people. They're not evil people. They really aren't. And they don't deserve to be picked up, put in trucks, and hauled off and carted away to someplace else. No one does. No one does anywhere in the world. But apparently the closest and most, Israel is our number one ally in the world. We're going to allow that to happen. The United States is going to allow another nation to conquer another one and then supplant that population. Why not? We were really good at it in the 17 and 1800s. We got a lot of experience, right? The vote on Sunday came hours after the military said it would mobilize tens of thousands of reservists, strengthening its capacity to operate in the besieged Palestinian territory. Quote, one thing will be clear, there will be no in and out, Netanyahu said on Monday video message posted on X. We'll call up reserves to come, hold territory. We're not going to enter and then exit the area, only to carry out raids afterwards. That's not the plan. The intention is the opposite. There will be a movement of the population to protect them. Oh, they're doing it to protect them. Folks, that's 101 colonialism. We're moving you to protect you. Said the same thing to the Native Americans. We're moving you to protect you. Trail of Tears, look it up. President Andrew Jackson, 8th President of the United States, 7th President of the United States. The plan would be implemented after U.S. President Donald Trump's visit to the Middle East next week to provide a window of opportunity for a hostage deal, the official added. If no hostage deal is reached, Operation Gideon's Chariots will begin with full force and will not stop until all its objectives are achieved. Oh boy. In any temporary or permanent agreement, Israel will not evacuate the security buffer zone around Gaza, which is intended to protect Israeli communities and prevent arms smuggling to Hamas. Okay, fair enough. We are finally going to conquer the Gaza Strip. Okay. Israel's far-right finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, said Monday that we are going to finally conquer the Gaza Strip. Annexing Gaza is a possibility, and once the military expands its operations in the enclave, it will not pull back, even if Hamas agrees to a new hostage deal, he said at a conference in Jerusalem, referring to the Security Cabinet decision on Sunday. Once we conquer and stay, we can talk about sovereignty over Gaza. Sounds like they're annexing Gaza. But I didn't demand that it be included in the war's objectives. Of course you didn't, because you can't actually say that out loud or put it to paper as official policy. Once the maneuver begins, there will be no withdrawal from the territories we've captured, not even exchange for hostages. Awesome. So yeah, strap in, folks. We're going to watch Israel conquer a territory and literally move a whole ethnic group of people to a different area of the world. This is going to be a disaster. This is going to be, and the thing is, you only see it on US TV. Hopefully you got your YouTube channels up. Hopefully you got some independent journalism out there that's going to get you the raw footage, not censored. Thank God I get that down here, being south of the border. I'll be able to see it and share it with you if it's not too graphic. There's a lot of graphic stuff that I get to see that you wouldn't want to see. You're just not willing to see. Americans don't want to see that stuff. They don't want to see that reality. But this is going to get interesting. Not only that, I haven't even talked about the war brewing in Kashmir, India, Pakistan, 2 nuclear countries that have basically put nuclear command and control in the field. They're ready to go. China will get involved in that one. We still have Ukraine and still have Russia going at it. And a dozen other skirmishes up and down Africa that no one cares about and talks about. So, world's on fire, folks. Don't mistake it for anything else. There's a lot going on in the world, and not many people are paying attention. And if we don't start paying attention and start letting things like this happen, things are going to get out of control, and they're going to get out of control quickly. But to let them conquer Palestine, to let them conquer Gaza, is a mistake. But apparently, the United States' foreign policy, is to allow this. I don't think any other president in the world, any other president in history would allow this to happen. I don't think George Bush would allow it to happen, even though he's probably the one that comes to mind thinking, yeah, maybe they would. I just don't see, but this is the one president that's going to allow this to happen, and we're going to see what happens. It's just not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty, and that's where we're at with that. But those are the three main stories that were popping up on my feed today I wanted to talk about. Definitely. Boom. Let me bring this back up. So, but with that, I'm going to sign off in a minute. I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining me early. I'm going to start doing just kind of a little cleanup here. I'm going to start doing South of the Border, which is more politically driven earlier in the day. I used to do it a little bit later. But I feel like, I get up, I really like talking about these things earlier in the day. Late Night with the Gringo is going to turn into our pop culture segment, which will be later in the day, if not late night. Again, join us because we're always doing videos. We're always doing live streams for video games. We do a lot of different things on the channel. I do a lot of comic books and a lot of video games, movie reviews. I love pop culture, but I also love politics. And a lot of the times those two things intertwine in real life. So I'm not really a niche channel that's just focused on one little thing, but four little things, I guess, or four big things. So I hope you do like the content. If you do, let me know. Leave a like, subscribe. Let me know what I can do better. What do you want to see more of? What do you want to see less of? And always give me your opinion, because my opinion, my father had a lot of sayings. My favorite one was, everybody's got an opinion, right? They're like assholes. Everybody's got them. They all stink. So, that's kind of dad I grew up with. So you kind of get to where I'm coming from. But let me know your opinions in these matters and what's going on with them. And I'll continue to monitor things here from south of the border and what's going on with immigration and how things are cutting out, because I do believe in the U.S. military. As I said in my previous live stream, I do believe that the U.S. military is poised and ready and getting ready to put boots on the ground and fight the cartels, and we're going to have a basic invasion of this country. And that's tough for someone like me to say, because I live here and I'm an American, and it'll affect me in ways that won't affect you people up in the United States. And it's, I just see it happening. I see it happening. So, but with that, I'm still your Reluctant Gringo. From south of the border, I'm going to sign off for right now, and I'll be back a little bit later. Salud, a huevo. Enjoy your Cinco de Mayo, especially if you're one of my Mexicans. Enjoy it. Love you. And we're going to get out of here. We're going to go celebrate ourselves and have something to eat. All right, let's go. Boom.
You a racist? Do you hate Mexicans?
So long, gay boys!